Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today is something a little different. I came up with the concept for this video when I was looking for new songs that I could do covers of, because newer songs tend to do better on YouTube. So I went to the Spotify Today's Top Hits playlist, the official hits on Spotify, and was a little confused. A lot of the names I was not familiar with. Sure, like Jack Harlow, Lil Nas X, Ed Sheeran, Adele, Doja Cat. Those were names that I was familiar with and I kind of expected, but most of the names I knew nothing about. I'd never heard of them. I was flipping through and I was not impressed. And so it got me thinking, if this is the best we have, what the f is happening to music? I want to clarify and say that I'm not some type of old head either. I'm generally listening to newer music that's less than a decade old. Artists like Ye, artists like Jaden, Bieber, Don Toliver, Party Next Door, Ty Dolla $ign. Like, those are artists to me that are unique and interesting. And granted, those are more hip hop, so it might make sense that I wouldn't love today's top hits, but still, it is so dull and boring. It seems like AI and streaming are gonna be two of the biggest factors in where music is going. Because when we're talking about music, we're really talking about recorded music, which recording technologies have only been around for about 150 years. Seems like a long time, but it's really not that long. I mean, before that, it was, do you have a piano? Or maybe there's a piano at your church or your pub. Maybe you know how to play it, or you know someone that can play it, and that's how you would hear and experience music. But it's not a product. It's not something that can be distributed. And then came records, and then came tapes, and then finally came streaming. I remember the first time I got a smartphone, it was this cheap Android phone, and I realized if I go through the browser, soundcloud.com, and I could play songs off SoundCloud, and I was like, I can listen to anything, anywhere. That was like 10 years ago, 11 years ago maybe. And we know this, like, we know how technology grows and progresses. But one of the things we don't think about is how this technology affects the way we produce music. Alan Cross did a really great TED Talk that I highly recommend. I'll link it in the description, called How Streaming is Killing Music. And he talked about what happens when streaming becomes the method of our consumption. The first method of recording audio was Edison's wax tube. 2 minutes worth of audio that could be stored on Edison's wax tube. So naturally, people made songs that were 2 minutes long. Then came records. The first record could hold about 3 to 4 minutes of audio. And then people started making 3 to 4 minute songs. And then the LP, the 12-inch record came out. And that could fit about 40, 45 minutes. And that's how long albums were. And that's kind of how it stayed. Like, it stayed that albums are about, 40 minutes-ish, and songs are about 3 to 4 minutes. But we're starting to see that shift again. Artists get paid if their song is streamed for 30 seconds. It doesn't matter if it's a 30-minute song or if it's a 2-minute song, artists are gonna make the same. So if artists wanna eat, they wanna get as many streams as possible, they're going to have shorter songs. And that's what we're starting to see.
So we've been talking a lot about how we consume music, but one of the things that's really shifting is how we produce music. And a lot of these things you wouldn't necessarily know if you weren't a producer. Now, sure, things like the internet are obvious. You can work with people all over the world. There's ultimate connectivity. You can release songs the day that they're made. But one of the interesting things is loops. Now, I subscribe to something called Splice. A lot of you may know what that is, but if you don't, it's a sample library where you can get different sounds, chord progressions, drum beats, all different sounds that you can use in your song. Some people kind of consider it cheating because a lot of the work is done for you, whether it's the mixing aspect or just the creating a melody or something like that. I just think it's another form of collaboration. I use them not super often, but I don't think there's any shame in that. I think it generally makes music better, but it also does something pretty weird. A couple years ago, I made this beat and produced this song called Sides by Icebird, and it goes like this.
I switching sides, I'm down to slide. I'm down to ride, if grinding was the cause of death, won't be alive.
Now, I made that all from this guitar loop that I pulled off Splice. You might not be able to even hear that in the final production, but I'll play the intro. Maybe you can hear it a little bit better. I pitched it up, added a lot of effects, and sped it up a little bit. Check it out. But the thing is, a lot of people have access to that same guitar loop, and that particular guitar loop has been pretty popular. If I go ahead and just play that loop with Shazam, tap in, and let's play. I get the song F Around by Tink. You can see that there. Let's do it again. Now I get Flamenco Colado by, sorry about that, I can't pronounce the name. I was Shazamming that loop for about 15 minutes and kept coming up with different results. I came up with about 10 different results, 10 different songs that use that exact same guitar loop. And I actually made up a playlist in Spotify. I called it TRHC _ guitar _ loop _ R&B chords _ 107 _ CM.wave, because that is what the loop is called on Splice. So I don't want to get like copyright stricken, but I'll go ahead and play a tiny little clip of just the beginning of all of them. You can listen to all those songs in full. I'll link that playlist in the description. It's actually kind of cool to see what all these different artists did with this loop, but definitely a little weird.
And now there's something new. About maybe like a year ago, I guess, it's been a minute, Kanye West released the stem player. Stem is a production term for individual audio tracks of a song. It's like if a producer wants to remix another artist's track, the producer will ask this artist for the stems, the original recordings, and that's kind of what the stem player is. It's individual tracks. You can adjust the volume of the drums, of the bass, of the vocals, and of the instruments from this device. Look it up if you haven't. It's pretty sweet. Kanye West made an announcement that he was going to release Donda 2, his album, exclusively for playback on the stem player. So you couldn't listen to it unless you had this thing. You might ask, why would he do that? And that definitely limits his audience. Well, I'll tell you why he'll do that. Because he's selling the stem players for a cool $200 a piece. So when he had made that announcement, he got a cool $2 million in sales within the first 24 hours of announcing that Donda 2 was going to be exclusively released on stem player. Love it or hate it, I kind of love it and hate it. There's some movement happening. There could be a device, a new music device that is different from streaming. It would have to be really cool. It's kind of like records are cool. Like records are cool, people buy records, they collect them. This device would have to be something of a collector's item. Designed really well, beautiful, unique, maybe offering a way to interact with the music. It would also probably have to be backed by one of the biggest names in music. So the stem player kind of seems prime for like what could threaten streaming. I love having access to every song pretty much ever made on Spotify. But I do see the appeal of having something that's like special. It's not another screen. It's something that doesn't hold every song in the world, just the ones that are special to you. I think that's kind of cool. Love it or hate it, it is showing that there is some sort of shift. I, for one, am not gonna spend $200 on a futuristic Walkman, so there's that. All right, this video is getting pretty long-winded. Let's wrap it up. Remember, this all started when I checked out the Today's Top Hits playlist on Spotify and was pretty disappointed. Granted, there's amazing artists doing amazing things, but what about pop music? Is it dead? Is it dying? Where's this going? Here's my predictions. I've got 7 of them. Some of them might be obvious, some of them not so much. Now, number 1, we're gonna hit rock bottom. Things are gonna get worse and worse. There's gonna be more and more junk music. There's gonna be more and more like junk TikTok stuff, that sort of thing. And like, we know it's not good now, but we're going to actually act on that here soon. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I think of it like soda, because like 20 years ago, it seemed like that was a pretty common thing that people would drink soda. But now, like in my circles where I live, it's super uncommon. We always knew that it was not good for us. But, you know, in the past 10 years, we've actually started acting on it, and it's become less and less common to see people drinking that. So I think the same thing's gonna be happening with pop music and just kind of like that sort of pop culture in general. Number 2, music and maybe the internet will localize. It's already happening with the internet. Like there's groups and apps that are focused on building community or just being local or focusing on local things that are happening. I think that's going to continue to happen to the point that you'll see a lot more really famous musicians that are only famous in your town. The value of an artist kind of goes up and is like taken seriously when they go national, right? Like, oh yeah, that rapper, like he's national now, he's going on national tours. I think there'll be a lot more value for like, oh, if you're in Cincinnati, you gotta go see that guy because he's amazing and he only performs there. I think stuff like that will happen, and it'll be a lot more meaningful because it'll be like their rapper, their artist, this town's musician. Number 3, this is my least interesting prediction because I think it's already happened, and this is that the live show is going to be reinvented. Because just looking at like Kanye West, he's kind of paving the way for that to be more normal. Things like the Donda 2 listening parties, his whole stage was just water. You know, that's so cool. And I think more artists, big artists, are going to have trouble drawing a crowd unless they're doing that level of stage design and that level of innovation in how they perform music and kind of shaking up some of the expectations. Number 4, I think this is actually the weirdest one I have. I think AI is going to start making and mixing music live. I predict that there's going to be some sort of system. It's going to be like a rave. There's going to be a DJ, but the DJ is going to be AI. There'll be data inputs, whether it's like facial scanning or some sort of input for the audience to give data to the AI. And then the AI will be able to create songs on the fly that actually match and pair well with what the audience is feeling in that moment. And it'll kind of get like everyone in sync in a really weird way and feel bizarre. Number 5, I think stereo MP3s are going to become obsolete. Maybe there'll be, you know, more than 2 channels, more than stereo. Maybe audio files and the way we actually interact with them will change. But I don't think that waves and MP3s and like having streaming or things like that are gonna be normal forever. I had someone that I was producing for, and he was really excited, and he was like, oh, it's cool that my grandkids and my great grandkids are gonna hear this and be like, oh, Grandpa so-and-so made this is so cool. Kids in 50 years aren't gonna be listening to like Spotify. Like, it's gonna be something newer, it's gonna be something more interesting. Waves and MP3s and digital audio files have been a staple in our culture for the past 2 decades. I don't think that lasts forever. I'm saying like 15 years, and it'll become a lot less common. Number 6, the lines of what a musician is will get really blurred. Look at people like Dylan Francis, look at people like Charlie Puth that have almost become more of like social media stars and vloggers, but I think it will continue. And also look at like The Rock. The Rock has a song with strange music, and Jake Paul is a rapper and stuff like that. I think that sort of stuff is going to continue, and that'll be kind of driving in pop music. 5-10 years, we'll see that. Number 7, final prediction. Music is going to get a lot better and a lot shittier. Music's an art. Music's a form of expression, but recorded music is also a product. And all products that I can think of have gotten a lot better. Think of like cars are faster, they're nicer, but also like a lot shittier too. Like you know, like a Ford Fiesta or something from a couple years back is just like a dinky little car compared to like what they would have been putting out in the 60s. So there's like this both thing happening. Go through like a Dollar Tree or something, and you'll be like, wow, there's a bunch of like garbage products on these shelves. No hate to Dollar Tree or anything, but you know what I mean, where it's just like, this stuff isn't that good, but as a culture, as a society, as a world, we're also making the best stuff that we've ever made before ever. We'll see really bad rap and really bad pop and just garbage music, and we'll see a ton of it. And then we'll also see some of the best stuff that we've ever seen as a culture before. I think both are happening. I think both are coming. What do you think? Like, those are just some of my predictions, but what's your music world? Is it live music? Is it reggae? Is it pop? Is it hip hop, rock, whatever it is, whatever your avenue is? What do you think is happening kind of in your circle and in your world? What have you seen? Where do you think music is going, and what the is happening to music? Much love to you guys. Appreciate you being here. I'll see you next time.